of the, well, I'm sure it plays a role in terms of the PPP. The PPP has captured the support of the majority of Muslims, East Indian Muslims, and East Indian Hindus in the country. There's no question about that. In terms of the role of race and ethnicity has always played a role in the
but not necessarily religion.
not necessarily religion, but ethnicity.
Okay.
Well, the religion side, Christians, the majority of Christians support the opposition, and the majority of Hindus and Muslims support the PPP. There's no question about that. That's just factual. The In terms of race, though, from the beginning of time, from since independence, um, Indians have supported the PPP, and the blacks have supported um,
APNU.
the AP and UPNC. Now, in the 60s, because we had the larger number of East Indians, um, there was a party called United Front, mostly of some upper class blacks and Portuguese. They supported that party, United Front. And in 1960s, United UF merged with the PNC to beat the PPP. So anytime you have a coalition of interest, the PPP is beaten. And that's why I was so disappointed that we didn't have a coalition in the opposition. But I want to highlight something.
Yes.
I noticed people from the government have been saying that this election will break the back of racial voting. Here's why they're saying it. Because they're making a pitch and they're inducing black people to vote for them. But you're not seeing East Indians coming over to the PPP, to the PNC, in any
Ah.
large numbers. Now, if you want to be honest, that's not breaking the back of racial voting. That's
Mm,
not breaking the back. That is inducing black people to come and vote for the PPP.
mm-hmm,
That's what it is.
mm-hmm.
If you want to break the back of racial voting, go into your communities and tell the East Indians, vote objectively. Look at our plans.
So
Look
hold
at
on a
our
minute.
plans
I
and
pause
judge
because
for
I
yourself.
want
No.
I
You know
want
what
to bring.
Barzak there went into the East Indian community and said? The black people in the army and the police force will come and kick down the Indian people door and rape them and kill them. That's what Jack Dale said. So what he believed is that black people are criminals.
So you're saying in the APNU you don't find East Indians joining and going to vote
No,
in
no,
that.
you have, but you're not seeing people leave the PPP, East Indian,
Ah, I
in the
got you.
numbers that you're seeing. They're quoting blacks to come over
Come
and
over. I
claim
got
that
you.
that is breaking the back. Right? It's hypocrisy. They
Yes.
want the black people to come to them, and they call it breaking the back of racial voting. But you let one East Indian from the PPP decide to go over to the opposition. They're going to try to kill them. They'll vilify them. They will smear them and their family. They will block them from everything in government, everything in the country. That's how they are. Like what they're doing to the Mohammeds. How
Yeah.
dare this little Indian boy go there with those black people and campaign against us? That's how I see it.
That's their view. I want to ask people because I see what's going on. Listen, because you know they come to attack the show. So
That's fine.
Bajan people, I want you to like the show, all right? Because when they go and they start to, I know when the algorithm is being affected, I can see it. So everybody just like the show right now, please, because there are people that are complaining to YouTube about this show right now. I can tell you it is happening, and I see some of it. They started in the comment section. You know, I know them. I know them by now.
But you know what? It is because they feel they must dominate everything. And
Yes.
this is my issue with them, right? They hate Rickford Burke because Rickford Burke knows some powerful people in America. They must be the people who know them. They hate the people who know me in America. How dare them not support the PPP? Like when we had the Washington conference, Jack Dale cursed me out. And Jack Dale sent Ali and a delegation of ministers to go to Washington. They spent 60 million Ghana dollars to send government ministers into this country to discredit me, so that the people in Washington would listen to me. But when they go to Washington and try to meet with U.S. politics, we don't curse them out. But it is embedded in the DNA that
Mm-hmm.
they must have dominance.
Yeah.
They must have overwhelming dominance over everything. They must control, they must be able to control the mayor of New York City. They must control the attorney general. They must control everything. They would write the attorney general and say, we heard you back Rickford Burke and criticize us. How dare you? Do you know who we are? We're East Indian people with a lot of money.
Yeah,
I mean, they don't say that. They're not saying that, but
but
that's what they're implying.
fine. I told you, I showed you some of the stuff. I don't know if you remember that they sent to me, and
They're inherently
this is
racist.
why it doesn't matter what you come. You have to show me, guys. You say what Rickford is saying is not true, but look at the names that you call me. Oh, come on. You call me all these names. You write me. And some of you, I had to block you, remember? So, and some of you right now, you're reporting the page because you don't want this to go out. And it's not the
Because you know
first
why?
time.
Because this program is being aired around the Caribbean, and they don't want people in the Caribbean to hear how racist they are or how manipulative they are. Let me tell you this. I was on a show, and I was talking about the government of Guyana sending a police officer to my house with an illegal gun, as far as I'm concerned, to threaten me and to allegedly serve me with some court paper saying I must go to Guyana because I criticized some Indian man with something. Listen, the people were calling in the show to say I am lying. The people show a video. The Chief Justice ruled on it, and they still said it did not happen.
Yeah.
Delusional. They are completely delusional. As a matter of fact, they're not delusional. They're completely mendacious. They're completely dishonest. And they believe that dishonesty must guide their politics.
But
The Attorney General of Guyana
Mhm.
wrote the United States government 4 times on Government of Guyana letterhead, wrote to the Attorney General of the United States that Rickford Burke is causing widespread violence throughout the length and breadth of Guyana. I could show you the letter. Widespread violence throughout the length and breadth of Guyana. That Rickford Burke is staying from America and extort multiple East Indian businessmen throughout Guyana. This man in any other country would have been disbarred. They thrive on lies. They're dishonest. They're mendacious. They do not deserve to have government power. And anytime they come out of government, the Guyanese people must make sure that they never get back into power. They must put them in jail or chase them out of the country in exile. They cannot have government power. They're dangerous. They're dishonest. They're deceitful. They're corrupt.
But Rickford, because somebody listening to this might think that all East Indians
No,
in
I'm not talking about East Indians. I'm talking about those in the PPP because there are East
That's why
Indians.
I wanted to make that clear because I've met some wonderful East Indian people, and I mean you can see.
I'm
Look at
talking about the PPP. I'm not talking about East Indian people, and that's what they do, right? They try to conflate PPP with East Indians. So when you condemn the PPP, they go and tell them you're condemning East Indians.
right. I'm glad we made that.
Yeah,
And
I'm talking about PPP
the
because
thought
there are
was,
East Indians in the opposition that are being persecuted, victimized, marginalized as well. But I'm talking about those guys in the PPP. And I make no apologies. I watch this camera. Let me say it to the Caribbean. I make no apology because I have the evidence. They are racist to the core. They have no respect or regard for people of African descent. To me, they train them in the PPP to disrespect us. I make no apologies for saying that. So when I see people of African descent accepting incentives to go over to join these people, I feel it's an abomination because they're demonstrated to us that they don't care about us. They want to use us politically for their benefit, and then they kick them to the curb. You look and see what they'll do to those guys. Right now, joining the opposition platform is a previous PPP African Guyanese minister by the name of Dr. Henry Jeffrey. And he went to a political rally on the East Coast within the last week and tell the people, vote race, because that's what they do. In other words, he was telling black people, don't vote for them.
Wow.
And he came out of them.
But what I love. I've been to Guyana, and I love Guyana, and I love Guyanese, and I love Guyana. Reminds me a lot, Rickford, of Jamaica, because we do have a lot of Indians in Jamaica, Chinese, you know that, and our motto is out of one people. And for me, when you go to Guyana, what I love about it is that mixture, and you can see it in how the people look, the features, you see all of that, the food, and the craft, the everything. And so my dream is to be able to truly see a one Guyana where all of those, everybody come together, the Amerindians, the East Indians, who are wonderful people, the black Guyanese, come together, because the Guyanese possess such great work ethic. My assistant is a Guyanese, and I tell you, I love her. And all my great those people. Anybody, when I want something to really be done, Bajans don't kill me. I love you all too. But Guyanese people, and not even Jamaicans, Guyanese. I'm gonna be bold and say it is the truth. Not even Jamaicans. I will.
Well, we thank you. We thank you for loving us. We love everybody back.
But that's
But
why it's so important. I'm saying this to say, even just based on your work ethic, it is so important that Guyana is able to come together as one people. You will still be different races, but just be able to accept your differences, appreciate your differences, see the beauty of the East Indians, the beauty of the Black Guyanese, and the
it is not
Americans,
Marcia, let me say, it is not the East Indians. We see each other's beauty. We would get along. The problem in Guyana is the PPP. The PPP, if you were to remove the PPP from the Guyanese society,
I
you will get a
understand. Yeah.
completely different society.
Mm.
The problem is the PPP. They, the leaders, and it has been passed down from leader to leader, they see themselves as superior beings to their political opponents.
Mm-hmm.
They don't believe that their political opponents must thrive. Their political opponents must not have a business that flourishes. Their political opponents must not work in the public service in any serious positions. Their political opponents must not get government contracts. Their political opponents must not be allowed to speak. Their political opponents must not own a radio station. They must not this. They mustn't be allowed political rallies. They mustn't be allowed to criticize the government publicly and openly and freely. They mustn't be able to associate. That's the PPP. You check, you talk with anybody in Guyana. That's the PPP. It's an autocratic political party. They believe in dictatorship. And of more recent, they have been patterning their politics after a certain leader in the world that they think has become successful because of his autocratic tendencies. And they're following that pattern. And they are very
Plus, they're tight friends with Motley, and that's our accusation of her here in Barbados. I'll add that one
and
in.
she turns a blind eye, she and some of the other Caribbean leaders turn a blind eye to what's happening in Guyana.
Yes.
I believe there was this anti-CARICOM sentiment that swept across Guyana within the last decade. I sometimes I wonder whether Guyana should leave CARICOM, because people in Guyana have suffered so much at the hands of the PPP, and CARICOM remained silent. Remained silent. The CARICOM headquarters was in Guyana. I remember having a very serious conversation with Dr. Edwin Carrington when he was CARICOM Secretary General about the killings. We met with him here. We went to the State Department and met CGID and met with the Assistant Secretary of State for the Western Hemisphere. We went to members of Congress. We met with the British officials. We met with European Union officials. We met with Canadian officials to discuss the killings of African Guyanese by the PPP.
Mm-hmm.
And Dr. Carrington reminded me that
Yes.
CARICOM cannot act unless all of the governments, the heads of state, agree. And I said, Dr. Carrington, you telling me that all of the CARICOM heads of government cannot agree that killing people in Guyana is a crime against humanity and that CARICOM must condemn it? And he looked at me and said, we have to get a unanimous decision in order for us to act. So why are we in CARICOM? Why are we in CARICOM?
I mean, but they swooped down on you guys at the end of the last election to declare the PPP as winners.
That's what I'm saying. That because the leaders of the opposition don't go and ingratiate themselves to CARICOM leaders. Jack Baird does it. Ali does it. Kiss up to them, hug them up, hold them, touch them. Hey. So they feel kinship. They feel, that they have to respond to this guy, and we can't condemn him when they do things. You ever heard CARICOM condemn? Imagine Adriana Young, a 9-year-old girl, 11 or how much years she was, that was killed. Right? No justice. No CARICOM country expressed concern. They don't give a damn about black people in Guyana. But let me say this. If a black person...
Even the Henry boys.
And the Henry boys.
Boys.
If a black person in Guyana kills a young East Indian child and the PPP considers it an injustice, they will mobilize every Caribbean country to condemn it. Rest assured. They don't place value on the lives of African Guyanese, certain African Guyanese, unless you are in their party. They think our lives are expendable, that they could just kill us and come out and lie and say, oh, it was an accident, or you were a criminal. And that's it. That little girl was murdered, and the president came out and said, well, the autopsy said, like if he's a doctor, the autopsy said that she drowned, and that's it. That's it.
That's it. But look at the Henry boys, where the people in the community knew that they were killed by, according to the people in the community, they identified the East Indian people who did it. They terrorized the families of the Henry boys. I mean, a case like that, of course, the Adriana Young case is also very big, but I think one that is more direct is the Henry boys, in my estimation. And I thought that we should have gotten more help from CARICOM. I want to know, because I'm saying, well, the question to you, do you think that we might end up with a kind of a race riot there if we don't get the results, if people don't get the results that they want? Do you think that's what we're going to see in Guyana with all of what you've told us tonight?
I'm not sure it will be a race riot. I mean, we've had race riots before. I'm not sure it's going to be a race riot. I think it would be the majority of Guyanese people expressing disgust with the PPP. Because the PPP obviously does not enjoy the support of the majority of Guyanese. We saw it in 2015 when the APNU coalition won. They do not enjoy the majority of Guyanese. And what they have to do is rig the election. It seems to me that they're setting up to rig the elections because they're saying, oh, we're going to have a landslide. They know they can't have a landslide. They won by 15,000 votes in 2020. And you probably have a lot more Guyanese now against them since then. How the hell they get in a landslide?
So and we know
that they rigged elections by getting their supporters to vote for people who are dead and people who are abroad.
That's what I was going to ask you. I saw that on social media, and Barbadians take note.
Well, the Guyana police force, Guyana police force confirm that, because after the allegations were made in 2020, the chairman of the Elections Commission sent a sample of persons who vote to the police
Mm-hmm.
and asked the police to investigate whether or not anybody in that sample re- is living abroad,
Mm-hmm.
and whether or not the immigration records show that they entered Guyana
Mm-hmm.
around election time. And the commissioner of police sent back a report showing that several people who live abroad but never came to Guyana voted.
Hold a minute. Well, people who live abroad and never came to Guyana?
Let me repeat. In 2020, after the election results were challenged,
Yes.
the Claudette Singh, the chairman of the Elections Commission, sent a sample of names of persons who registered as voting. Because remember, when you go there, you have to they take off your name, right? And you're entered into the database as appearing at a polling place to vote. So they know who voted. So they sent a sample of those names that voted to the police,
Mm-hmm.
for the police to check to see if among them there were any persons who we know who the police in their record have as migrated. And if any of those people entered the country prior to elections to vote,
Yeah.
and the police sent back a report saying with a particular number, a large number of them who reside abroad, migrated, but who never entered the country around election time, voted. So somebody voted for them. Also, she sent the same thing to the General Register's office to check against people who were possibly dead. Same results came back. There were several people who are registered to have voted who have died.
Mm.
And that is what the people in the Caribbean don't really understand what happened when we had the recount. What really happened is that elections officials detected that there were fraudulent ballots. Those same ballots that I'm talking about, voting for dead people, voting for people who were abroad. And there were ballots in boxes that exceeded the number of voters in that division.
Hmm. Rickford, repeat that. There's a reason, because Dominicans listen right now going to understand what you just said, and I'm going to relate to what you have just said. And Bajans that we just had the by-election in St. James there. And so they're going to relate. Repeat what you said there at the end.
So the elections officials,
Mm-hmm.
especially in Region 4, but in most of in all the regions, detected that there were ballots in those
Yes.
boxes that were fraudulently cast. And some of those boxes also did not have the required documents. You have to have a summary of the ballots that were cast, called a statement of poll, in the box. So after you tally the votes and so on, you record it on what is called a statement of poll,
Mm-hmm.
and you place it in the box and lock it with the ballot box. That is not supposed to be opened again unless there's an election petition and it's ordered open by the court. But of course, David Granger called me immediately, and he did some stuff that we think was unconstitutional and allowed them to do that. But the Elections Commission in 2020 attempted to eliminate what they deemed to be fraudulent ballots. And that's where they run into a problem when CARICOM and them come and say all the nonsense. And the court ruled that once the ballot is in the box, it has to be counted. So if a grasshopper put a ballot in there, a zombie, a olag, or a rat, in this case, lots of rats, probably put ballots in the boxes, the court said that it should be counted.
Yes.
Now, I hope, and let me say this without hesitation and fear, I hope again that the opposition gets those same rats, those same grasshoppers that voted for the PPT, where the court said once a ballot in the box, it must be counted. The opposition this year get them same rat and them same grasshopper to vote for them. Because once the ballot in the box, it got to be counted.
So let
I
me
make
ask
no
you,
apologies for saying that.
there is something you said before we close, because I'm seeing Mr. Bob is there in the waiting room. I want to say, ask you. You said that they found that there were more persons voted
More persons voted than there were voters in the district.
than there were voters in the district,
Yeah.
and this is the same thing that very similar thing that happened in Dominica. And I believe that is something that they're getting ready to do in Barbados, because in Barbados, in the St. James North election, we had 2,000 more persons on the register, the voters registry, than that exist in the parish. So there's something that, yeah, that they're getting ready to do. I know that there's something, and if it's overstated in St. James North, it means that there's a possibility it might be overstated in all in the other 29 constituencies. So this is why I'm saying that it's almost like it's the same playbook that they're all operating under. But before we close tonight, sir, you stayed way longer than it always happens, because it's always so educational with you on the show, sir. What's your guess? What are you? Who do you think is going to win this election? Do you want to give
I'm
us
not
that?
sure. I think I would like to see the APNU win.
Yes,
I I I think any of the three major parties can win.
any of them.
Anybody, anybody
Wow.
who, any one of the parties that get to 185,000, 190,000, would be the winner. I don't think we'll have a majority government in parliament. It looks like this is going to result in a minority government, which more than likely means that we're going to go back to elections very shortly. Um, Anytime the PPP wins a majority in parliament, the elections were rigged. There's no way they could do it in 2010 with a smaller party, the AFC, which got 35,000 votes. They caused the minority government. Win is much stronger than the AFC. They have much broader support across the country. And if they could convert the people that support them to votes, we'll definitely have a minority government. I think that the opposition, APNU, is going to hold its base, traditional base.
Yes.
And if they hold their traditional base, the PPP, there's no way the PPP could get the 33 seats in the parliament. So I anticipate, my prediction is that there's going to be a minority government and that any of the three parties can win. But I'd like to see the APNU win.
APNU, I mean, and as you said, they're doing a lot of groundwork, even though I'm seeing a lot of win on social media. You're saying that they're doing a lot of groundwork. Well, I wish you all the very, very best. And I pray for peace for Guyana, and that everybody will come together as one. This has been wonderful again, Mr. Burke. And I hope you'll be smiling like this on September 2nd.
Thank you. I hope so too.